Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babbling Eyes video with myself and Sloth today. Who's going to be captain at West Ham this season? It's a big question. It's something that's being debated online quite a lot, and even Lopetegui himself probably is still weighing up his options for who he wants to be club captain next season. Obviously, last season it was Kurt Zouma. It's looking more unlikely that that's going to be the case this season, especially if he's sold. But I'd say there's five main candidates for the job, if you want to say that. So the number one candidate was obviously Max Kilman. It was rumored that it was a big part of why Lopetegui brought him in as his first choice, because he made him captain at Wolves. So he could potentially make Kilman club captain at West Ham straight away. You've then got, other players like Souček, who's captain for Czech Republic. You've got James Ward-Prowse, who's been a captain at Southampton for a long time. And then there's a few other ones. So obviously Alvarez is the obvious choice to be the kind of midfield anchor as the captain, and Jared Bowen as an outside shout as well, because of his attitude and leading on the pitch by example, shall we say. So out of those five, Sloth, who's appealing to you most? Who's calling out your name to wear that captain armband next season?
So I think my heart is going with Alvarez. I think, although Kudus was very much the star of the show and the signing, I think, the signing of the season for most West Ham fans, I can't help but feel that Alvarez he was a very close second. And I think that he's got something that West Ham fans love, which is that tenacity and the willingness to throw himself at everything. So I think the other thing that he's also showing is that he has got a bit of leadership about him. Obviously, because he is the Mexico captain, he does have international leadership experience, much like a certain Czech international. But
yeah,
it's also a case that I think he embodies that quality in terms of how you play football. And it's not just something that is down to your ability, it's down to your application as well. And
yeah,
whenever he goes on the pitch, he gives 100%. You can see him talking to the people around him as well. And that is a huge part of any captaincy. You can't be a captain if you're just going to be, Mr. Easygoing and not demand a certain level from people. And I think he'll definitely do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really tough one. I was against the idea of Kilman coming in and being club captain straight away. I know we debated it on the live stream. I was kind of outvoted by a lot of the comments as well. But what's your thoughts on bringing someone in to instantly be club captain? Because for me, I think there's a lot more to being a club captain than meets the eye. I think Declan Rice spoke about that in length when he was handed club captaincy from Mark Noble officially, instead of just being like the vice captain and captain on the pitch when Noble wasn't playing. He said there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. There's a lot of extra stuff behind the scenes that we don't see club captains perform. And there's actually a lot more than just playing and turning up and being a leader on the pitch in that dressing room. So are you on board with the idea of, say, would you be opposed to Kilman becoming the club captain this season?
Not at all. Look, modern football is such that I think what happened with Declan Rice's captaincy was a very, very rare thing in modern football, where he was handed a long-term captaincy. Like, he was handed that from Noble, and someone saying, who was, the image of the club for a long time, handed that to Declan Rice and almost said, the baton's gone to you and you need to take this club forward. And I think, look, whether you're for or against that kind of thing, it was a very different situation to what we're used to in football.
Yeah.
Because such is the nature of transfers, cutthroat dealings with football squads and youth academies. It's very unlikely you'll see a situation like that again in the Premier League. So I think people have to realise that when you get 11 players, a big, large squad of players from around the world, most of them are going to be, they're not going to be academy boys. They're going to be players from around the world. It's not a case of, well, I've been here 2 years, I should be the captain. It's going to be a case of who's the best leader. And if they're appointed, they have to show why.
Do you
And
think it adds unnecessary pressure to him as a signing, being Lopetegui's first choice, obviously coming in for what, 40 million? Does it add that extra pressure that he doesn't need to settle into a football club? That's my angle of it as well, that he's not someone that's familiar with the football club. And again, because he was the number one transfer target at centre back, it adds a little bit more pressure onto his role at the football club.
I think you can look at it two ways. You can look at it like that, or you can look at it as it's a sign of confidence in them. It's a sign of confidence from the manager, and ultimately the owners as well, that the manager's gone out, chosen you, and he knows what you bring to the table. He appointed you manager at his previous club. He's obviously and he thinks you can lead us forward in that sense. So I think it can be a double-edged sword, don't get me wrong, and you could argue it adds a lot of pressure, but I think pressure in modern football is unavoidable, and it's a case that now if you are a 40 million pound footballer, you've got to go and show it. He's got to be able to go with that. So I personally, I think I'm edging towards the idea of Alvarez as captain, but I do think Tillman would be a great vice captain or great figure to have. We've got Cresswell, and I think that he's going to be a figurehead from afar almost. He's going to be that mature sort of figure in the dressing room. I personally would have preferred O'Connor for that role, because I think he's a bit more experienced overall. But that's not for me to dwell on.
Different debate.
I'm over it. I really am.
It hurts.
But I think that going forward, you if you're not selected as captain, you have to just put that to bed and get behind the person who is. If you feel unhappy that player is perhaps underperforming, like maybe we have heard rumours of the previous club captain having suffered with, I think that you have to face up to that. And if you're the captain, you have to basically say, look, I realise I'm underperforming. I'm going to try and step up, but I expect the same from you. So
this video is sponsored by Emotive. Emotive provide cutting-edge digital services, solutions, and training to companies and businesses of all sizes. Emotive have worked with some fantastic brands in the past, as you can see behind me, the likes of Apple, Google, Tesco, and of course, Babylon Irons. Emotive offer 4 key services, the first being digital solutions, the second being professional training and coaching, the third being fractional experts, and the fourth being AI readiness. We're going to be working with Emotive on our channel to improve how we showcase the data to you guys in our breakdown videos and data analysis videos. If you want to find out more information about how Emotive can work with you, make sure to scan the QR code now, which will take you to emotivetouch.com, where you can find out more details about the company, and the link will be in the description. A massive thank you to Emotive once again for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it. What about the idea of making someone like Jarrod Bowen captain? I think that's been shouted out quite a lot across social media as someone that could be a potential candidate for the club captaincy. He's not someone I would say is a natural, say, leader in the dressing room. But again, we don't necessarily know. But I'm pretty sure he's, as we saw when he kind of first joined the England squad, he's quite someone that's, stays to himself, a little bit shy, not really he's not a leader in the sense of what you'd expect a leader to be, but he definitely leads by example with how he applies himself as a footballer, his obviously talent on the pitch as well, which again, some people prefer that type of captain to say, like you were mentioning, an Ogbonna or someone like that who doesn't necessarily have the skill set right now, but is more of a leader in the dressing room and, is a different type of leader. So what are your thoughts on the Bowen link to club captain? Would you be for that? Would you, if that was to happen?
Look, I think he's a great figurehead and great picture, like poster boy for the club. And I think that he is leading by example on the pitch. And as I mentioned, that's a key aspect of being captain. But I do worry that he isn't a captain in the overall sense that he will demand more from other players, and he will.
Do you not think? I think he would. I think he gets it at West Ham.
I think he will to a degree, but I just wonder when it comes to that next level of being on the training ground and saying to someone, look, I know you had a tough game yesterday. this week is your chance to put it right. And that, because that is part of being a captain as well. You know, if someone's underperforming, speaking to them and figuring it out. And I know that people will go, oh, well, the club hire people for that. But yeah, that is part of being a captain. Being a captain is also now going up to members of the squad, recognizing what they're doing. If they're, you know, performing really well, you got to praise that, and you got to go make a big deal of that. It's something that you hear from even the academy players. You know, when Earthy scored, look at all the players who went over to him. You've got to lead by example and make sure that if someone's doing well or someone accomplishes something, you make a big deal of it. You celebrate that. To the same degree, if someone's not quite pulling their weight, you also make them aware of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it, to be honest. I wouldn't mind seeing Bowen as captain. I think there's better candidates. Like you say, I think Alvarez is more of a captain. Again, he's captain for Mexico. He's already shown, I think he's nicknamed El Capitano, isn't he? And something like that. Or El Machin. Sorry, I'm getting that mixed up. But yeah, I think Bowen would lead by example on the pitch. I think it's a different type of captain. We've seen it when the best player on the team is, or one of the best players on the team is captain, but they're not necessarily that vocal figure. It depends on what type of leadership certain players respond to. Some people might prefer that, but I think the majority would prefer someone a bit more vocal. And I always prefer a captain to be someone that's in the anchor of the squad, anchor of that first 11, whether that's a centre back, whether that's a kind of defensive midfielder or central midfielder. I don't really like it when it's, say, a striker or a winger in general, but it can work. But because you see players like, I think Odegaard's captain for Arsenal, and he's obviously one of their advanced midfielders, but again, it's slightly different. It would be like making Paqueta captain again. I think he would be a funny captain to have. But yeah, I think for me, as you mentioned, the obvious candidate is Alvarez to come in and be that captain. I think Kilman is probably a close second when you look at the actual leaders in that team. And yeah, I don't think Zuma will stick around as club captain. I don't think Lopetegui wants to do that. I think he wants to go in a new direction. And I do believe he wants to pick Kilman. Are you getting the same vibe? Do you think Kilman will be the club captain next season, or do you reckon someone else?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's Alvarez, just because he's been here through a full season.
Do you think the injury could affect it? Because obviously he's going to be out for the
I
beginning.
wouldn't be surprised if Kilman's vice captain and Alvarez is captain. If Kilman starts as vice captain, then I think he will have a chance to maybe earn the captaincy.
I think the only thing I'm against Alvarez on is how he very, very rarely played 90 minutes last season because of, either suspension, injury, or just fatigue. There was often times where he was completely done before the 60th or 70th minute, which again is something he'll have to get better at in the Premier League next season. But Kilman, you'd expect to.
But
yeah, I know. I don't agree with Kurt Zuma being captain either. But Kilman, I think he played every minute last season. Touch wood, he doesn't get injured this season. But I think he's someone that's likely to play more minutes over the course of the season. Do you think that plays any factor in, or not really?
I think if you're speaking about in terms of reliability, like Lopetegui being able to rely on him, maybe that will be something that he feels he can do more with Kilman. I personally think that, if you're making a decision as for the captaincy and you're picking Alvarez, that's going to happen. That at times you're going to have to hook him and say, look, you're skating on thin ice here. That's also something that can be a good thing for the club as well. If you have two figureheads on the pitch, then that sends a message to the whole squad.
Yeah.
So personally, I think I just edge with Alvarez at the moment, but we will only see when we know exactly how severe or hopefully quick to return Alvarez is from his injury.
Yeah, very true. I think it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of preseason games that we have coming up in the US who he opts for as captain, what starting 11 he goes for in that first half, and just the overall sense of the direction we're going in, because it's getting closer to the season starting now. So these things do need to be addressed sooner rather than later. But let us know in the comments, who would you make club captain going into this season? Because there are a few candidates, and yeah, we've discussed them here, but there may be someone else we haven't mentioned. If there is someone, let us know. And yeah, let us know your pick for captain this this season. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel as always, and Sloth, until the next one.
Come on, you
Come on,
irons.
you irons.